Hey guys, this is Rick. I hope you're having a great day. All right, in this video, I'm going to try to do some conclusions about my experiences with LARP so far. Now, as you may or may not know, last year, about 5 months ago, the end of 2017, I made a video. I think I titled it my first LARP event or something like that, and I actually went along to a LARPing event for the very first time to experience it, find out what it was all about. Now the thing is, you can't film the actual activities and events while they're happening kind of in character, so I did a lot of vlogging from inside my van and just kind of sort of talked about the things that I'd seen and experienced. And at the end, when I was driving home, I wanted to sort of do a conclusion video. The problem is my brain was so fried from like 4 solid days of taking in all this new information. What I decided to do was defer doing a conclusion video to the LARP event until such a time as I'd had a chance to kind of step back and kind of just digest everything. And then sort of talk about it then. Now I'm hoping this video is going to be that conclusion video. The problem is, I've been trying to make this video for about 2 days, and it is still incredibly difficult to articulate the thoughts and ideas and feelings that I have about LARP. So I'm going to have another go using this particular camera setup. I'm hoping the camera's not going to give out on me, because it keeps running for a while and then suddenly automatically just stops recording, and it's kind of a bit frustrating. But anyway, I'm going to have a go at making this conclusion video right now, and we'll see how we get on. But as I say, I've been trying to make this video for quite a while, and it is still incredibly difficult to articulate what it is I want to say. But we'll have a go anyway and see what happens. So LARP, if you don't know what LARP means, it's an acronym for live action role play. And I stumbled across the whole concept of LARP not so long ago, sort of probably about 6-7 months ago. And as soon as I saw it, it kind of grabbed me. It's one of those things where you suddenly discover a thing and it kind of really gets your attention. And the more I looked into it, the more I realized I wanted to try a LARP event out. I had to overcome some of my own kind of personal anxieties to do it, but I was so intrigued by it, and I was so inspired by it that I went ahead and did it anyway. And I'm so glad I did, because I had an amazing time. And I basically went to this event. It was called Empire, and it was about an hour and a half drive away. And it was just the most remarkable sort of, I'm not going to say life-changing, but it was just, it had such an influence on me. It was such a positive influence that it has completely it captured my imagination. It's made me think much better in terms of creativity. It's kind of switched a light on, if that makes any sense. So if you imagine that you're just kind of, in your everyday normal life, and all of a sudden you're whisked away to some sort of fantastical imaginary world that's actually real. It's like this living, breathing world. You find yourself sort of, dressed in some sort of medieval outfits, sort of clothes that you've never worn before. And there are hundreds of other people, thousands, in fact, well over 1,000 people, I think, went at the last one. And they're all dressed the same, in all these kind of medieval, Renaissance, Arthurian type clothing. And all the people are friendly. There's this kind of like tented town that you're in, and it's got streets and everything. There are hospitality tents. There are foods and drinks that you've never seen before. And it's an absolutely amazing place. And it's so immersive that you actually forget about this kind of real world that we live in, and you get completely immersed in this world for like 3 or 4 days, however long it is that you do this event. And if you imagine that this has happened to you, and then you come back into your normal everyday life, and all you can think about is this amazing kind of magical fantasy world that you spent this time in, and all you want to do is kind of look forward to going back there. That's kind of where I'm at the moment. I kind of I've come back to the real world, but a huge amount of my thought processes ever since leaving that event, a huge amount of my thought processes have been toward Empire. I don't think there's a day gone by where I haven't had some sort of thought about Empire. It's got me thinking creatively all the time. If not, I'm taking actions towards my next attendance of the next event. So it's had a really big, quite positive influence on my life since attending. Now, the event I attended was called Empire, and it's run by a company called Profound Decisions, and I believe it's probably one of the best in the country. For attention to detail, it's certainly very, very popular, and they really pull out all the stops, and they go to town on trying to make everything as authentic as possible, and they do a bloody good job. And like I say, I was there for I think it was 4 days. I went on the Thursday, came back on the Sunday, so it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's 4 days. And the in times, where you're in character, the immersion times were just so amazing. So basically, in Empire, and first of all, don't quote me on any of this. I'm still very much a newcomer to the game. I've literally only attended one event, so it's quite possible I might be talking about stuff and it's not going to be 100% accurate. So give me some wiggle room here. But essentially, what I've learned so far is that Empire is made up of 10 different nations. And each nation has its own kind of look and feel. They're all a little bit different from each other. And they basically, when the Empire event happens, what happens is all 10 of these nations converge on this one place, and they make this town called Anvil. And it's kind of like a summit meeting. Where all of the leaders and everybody from the nations get together. They've got senators and mages and all sorts of people who determine the way forward for what they call the Empire, which is sort of a coming together of all these different nations. So it's kind of like a United Nations of this fantasy world. Now, each nation, as I say, has its own look and feel. Now, I've joined a nation called Dawn, and the Dawn Nation, it's all about the glory. It's kind of all about valor. The look and feel is very sort of Arthurian, Renaissance, a little bit Shakespearean. The clothing is very opulent and a little bit ostentatious. There's a real richness to the clothes. There's a lot of kind of shining armor and stuff. And a lot of these guys are very battle oriented, and it's all about glory in battle. My own character, which I'll talk about in a while, he's a non-combatant. Basically, I have a few issues that are making it very difficult for me to go onto the battlefield at the moment. But you can have a non-combatant character. And that's what I've done. Like I say, I'll talk about him in a minute. Now, for my first visit, I only wore very basic medieval garb. I didn't quite know which nation I was going to be going with. And it was perfectly acceptable for Anvil in general, but for the nation that I joined, which was Dawn, it just wasn't suitable. It wasn't the right colours, it wasn't the right type of clothing. But I've made some efforts this time so that when I attend at the next event in April, hopefully I'm going to have the right kind of clothes. Now, I've joined a house within Dawn, and the colours for that house are red and black. Now, you may see behind me some shields that are actually in red and black. I've actually created those for some of my housemates within Dawn. And like I say, the colours are red and black. I'll be showing you some images of them now. So what I've done, the new garb that I've got, or it should be arriving soon. I've had to order it from Italy. It's like a real long way away, and it's taken about nearly 4 months to be made. But I'm hoping they're going to be here on time for the next event. But I've made some efforts to get some appropriate garb in the right colours. Now, had I stuck with the basic garb that I wore, the kind of the earthy colours, I could have just wandered along and joined one of the nations called Navarre, because that would have been much more fitting for that type of garb. Or I could have perhaps joined Wintermark. Also, the garb that I wore was more appropriate for that, because they have this kind of much more sort of earthy kind of look and feel to them. Now, there is another nation called the Imperial Orcs, and I've got to take my hat off to these guys. These guys are pretty hardcore. They wear, for pretty much most of the whole of the Empire event, they wear latex, full head latex masks, which can't be that comfortable to wear. But they go to town on, the costumes, everything, and they look absolutely amazing. They even put this kind of colouring around sort of where the mouths are and their eyes are, so that when they put this stuff on, you can't tell like where the person ends and where the mask begins. They look so realistic. It's really clever. And again, some of their costumes are absolutely so really good. and when you see them, you're kind of a bit blown away by them. And I remember there was one surreal moment where on the Sunday where everybody was getting ready to go off through the big portal. They've got this big portal to go into battle, and I was just stood there with my mug of coffee, just kind of watching everything, watching people milling around and chatting. And I was on one of the main paths, and I actually had to step back off the main path to allow this battalion of orcs to walk past. And it was just possibly one of the most surreal moments, in my time in Anvil there. It was just really weird. And there are all these orcs. I mean, they're literally walking past me. It's like in rows. And it was just... You kind of had to be there, but it was completely surreal. I should say you may see some scenes where I've got my glasses on and some scenes where I've got my glasses off. I'm having some issues with my camera. It keeps like stopping for no reason. So I've got a monitor over there, and I need to put my glasses on to sort of look at it because it's quite small. So going back to Empire, there's another nation called the VOUCHER, and from what I understand, it is my house in Dawn. A lot of the people from that house, or I think that house itself, migrated from VOUCHER a number of years ago. I'm not entirely sure on the specifics, but the VOUCHER, they have a look and feel to them that is very almost like Eastern European. And these guys are pretty spirited. There's also Wintermark. These guys wear a lot of furs and stuff. I think Wintermark is set in a very northern place, lots of cold weather, and it's very cold there. And but I think Wintermark is probably one of the most popular nations out of all of them. I think it's one of the largest nations in Empire. Although I'm not sure I'd want to be in Wintermark in the height of the summer heat, because if these guys are still wearing like fur and stuff, it's going to be pretty hot. Now you've also got the Marchers. Now from what I can make out, the history behind the Marchers is a lot of these guys originated in Dawn, but they're a bit disgruntled with the way Dawn ran things, so they went off and did their own thing and became the Marchers. And with Dawn, like I say, it's all about the glory and the being glorious in battle. I think the Marchers, they're more down to earth. They sort of want to get on with the job and stop poncing around being all glorious about it. Don't quote me on that. What you need to do is look up on the Empire wiki. Empire have this thing called Wiki. It's like a Wikipedia, and there is loads and loads of information and background lore, all about how everything works and all the histories of all the nations and everything. Now, when I was at the last event, I actually heard some people talking about the sheer volume of content on the wiki. And now, don't quote me on this, and I don't know how true this is, but they seem to be under the impression that the volume of information within the wiki amounts to the equivalent of about 3 Bibles worth. So there's this enormous amount of background detail and information, and a lot of it covers the lore behind Empire, and also the lore and folklore and history behind all of the nations as well. So this is an incredibly complex and sort of diverse world. It's damned impressive when you look at the background and how much detail there is about all the history of everything. And I'm so impressed. To be honest, it's one of the reasons why my brain was so fried at the last event. I was trying to take on so much information, and there's only so much you can absorb before you just can't absorb anymore. And that's where I was, driving home after the event. That's why I couldn't do my sort of conclusion video. Now, what you do in order to create an event is you have to create a character. And I created my character. He's called Ned, and he's a non-combatant character. But the idea is that you basically become, you don this persona of that character. Now, ideally, if you can create your character with a background is at least a little bit important, so if anybody talks to you, you have something to talk to them about, Now, when I created my character Ned, I wanted to sort of get his background woven into the history and the lore of the Empire, so he had a very clear sort of timeline, if you like. And so what I've got so far is Ned was born in a village called Fairhaven, which I sort of I borrowed from Star Trek Voyager. They had this couple of episodes where they had, in the holodeck, they had this place called Fairhaven. I just liked the name, so I thought, okay. So he grew up in this little hamlet village just outside of Colwich. Now, Colwich actually exists on the Empire map. And now Ned resides in a place called Bellatane, which is where most of the members of his house are now resident. So that's sort of basically his story so far. Now, I'm hoping to develop my character. Now, some people don't really care too much about their characters, especially if they're kind of going in there and getting stuck into battle. Quite often their character will get wiped out in battle. So if you're intending to do that, it's not necessarily ideal to invest too heavily into your character. But for me, being a non-combatant, I think I can get away with investing quite deeply into my character, spending sort of time, effort and money on creating them, hopefully evolving them. I'm hoping to try to get Ned good reputation. Originally he was going to be a healer, and I decided from a out of character practical perspective that wasn't going to happen. I was having all sorts of issues with kind of being where healers needed to be. So I decided to change his role to an artisan. And that means between the 4 events that take place each year, artisans create these magical items which they can then sell or give to members of their house or whatever. And these magical items can be used to strengthen armor and swords and weapons and things. So when I attend the next event, I'll go to what's called the games operation desk, or the god tent, and I'll pick up Ned's character pack, and within that will be what's called phys reps, and these are physical representations of the resources that he earned during downtime. And these are going to come in the form of, for example, the green iron ore that Ned, because Ned owns a green iron ore mine. He's going to have little ingots of green iron ore, which are these little plastic mouldings, and they represent, like I say, these resources. What Ned can do is he can trade these resources for other resources in order to progress his artisan craft. And that's the idea. He'll also have a little bit of currency given to him. He'll also have a couple of items, I can't remember the names of them, but they'll actually be in the form of like ribbons, and these are like official ribbons with the name of the item on, and then Ned can present those to like members of his house, or he can sell them. And these items will be like tied onto a piece of armor or tied onto a sword or something, and it will imbue those items with magical powers, which then gives the bearer greater power in battle. So it all works out rather nicely. And for me, the idea is Ned wants to go on to make certain items that are really hard to make, but he has to find the resources to do that. So one of the things he's doing, or one of the things I'm doing, is working on things out of character that I can even sell in-game for in-game currency. And I'm not sure if you can see, the shields might be a bit blurry behind me, but I'm making these shields at the moment. Now, some of these shields I'm giving away to some of the people in my house, just, because I'm a generous sort of guy and I like to give stuff away. So I'm sort of hoping that they're going to be visible within the kind of the house tent. And then perhaps if others, from other nations or other areas come in and see, because people come and go all the time within the communal tents. And if others see the shields, they might think, oh, they're cool, can you make me one? At which point Ned can step forward and say, yes, I can make you one. It will cost you in-game currency, and I can bring it to the next event. So Ned can sell these like shields to other nations and other people, and then hopefully he can make enough in-game currency that he can then buy other resources that he needs in order to create these magical items, which he can then hopefully give to, or sell, I'm not sure how it's going to work yet, to like members of his own house, that will make the members of his house a lot stronger and a lot more glorious in battle. Because that's the in Dawn, everybody strives to be glorious, and whether that's being glorious in battle or whether that's being glorious in Ned's case in making rare amazing items that sort of give the bearer of those items great power. Now, don't quote me on that. Again, I'm still very new at this. I've only attended one event so far. But hopefully that kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of how it works, or should I say my understanding of how it works. That may all change. Like a lot of this, I'm still just barely hanging on, with my fingernails sometimes, just to sort of how all this works. But I'm looking forward to going to the next one anyway, so that hopefully I'll become a little bit more educated as to how it all works. Maybe get a little bit more comfortable with it as well. Now, at the moment, when everything's new to you, you're taking these tentative steps because you're not entirely sure you're doing it right. But I'm hoping, again, that's just going to come with time and experience. So continuing on with the making in-game things to sell for in-game currency, I've also been working on some potential 3D printed items. Now this is like an experimentation that I did. This is like just a little almost like a jewelry box. Now I cannot sell these because I don't own the copyright to this particular pattern, but I just did it purely as a test to see whether I can do it. But yeah, I could quite easily make some like 3D printed items like this. Probably smaller versions because these take a long time to print. But again, other options for Ned to get resources in game. So I should be looking into that. Maybe designing my own version so that I can make them available in character. That'd be good. But yeah, so I'm hoping to sort of develop my character as the events and hopefully the years go on. And that's one of the good things you can do in Empire. Empire is a very, very safe place, or Anvil is a very safe place to be. And I mean, some LARP systems, you'll take your life into your own hands as soon as you step out onto the streets. And quite often your character can get killed off. But with Anvil and with Empire, I think they make it in such a way, or they do it in such a way that you really can invest time, effort and money into building your character without that danger of your character being killed off. I mean, they do have the occasional assassination attempts, and I think actually last time we were there was one house, I think they were from Dawn, I think they were nearby to where we were, and one of them had gone on to trial. I can't remember what the crime was, but they ended up being found guilty and executed. And then the remaining house members actually went after the magistrates and they actually assassinated one of the magistrates. So there's all this, I think they call it's making good game. And so I'm assuming when we go back in April, there's going to be a bit of a manhunt on and a bit of a hoo-ha around these kind of rebellious house people. So I'm kind of intrigued to see how that one's going to turn out, but I'm sure there'll be another trial. So and there'll be a trial for murder. So that's probably not going to be. It's not going to end well for the characters. But yeah, there's also. I mean, there's you can go and watch the Senate in session, and they're kind of walking around and determining the future of the Empire and everything. And there's always so much going on. It's just so cool. But like I say, yeah, I want to develop Ned's character and hopefully get him a really good reputation within like Anvil for creating high quality items. Whether that happens or not, I don't know, and I'm still not entirely sure how I'm going to do it. But like I say, because I'm still quite new to this all. But hopefully, as I learn the game, things will become a lot more easier and a lot more doable. But the other thing I love about this whole Empire setup is I don't know if this is the same for other LARP systems, but I know with the Empire system, the game carries on during downtime. Basically, there are four main events. I think they call them E1, E2, E3, and E4, and they're basically like the 4 seasons through the year. And they're generally held from like spring to sort of early autumn, and I presume that's just because you hold them outside those times and you've got the horrible English weather to deal with, and you're just going to be walking around in a big muddy bog. But these events take place and 4 times a year for over 1 weekend each event. And what I've been doing is actually writing in-character mail to some of the other characters within my house. Now I made friends with this girl there, and she taught me about in-character mail. And what you do is you actually write a letter like on proper parchment paper with I've got a fountain pen and everything, and you write as your character to the other character in character. So for example, Ned is actually in the story. Ned is actually training with this girl's parents, because her parents are artisans, and because Ned's becoming this artisan, he's actually spending the winter with her parents. In the story. So when Ned wrote the letter to her, he was essentially writing from her parents' house and telling her, what had been happening and how he was getting on and a few incidents that had happened and everything. And I loved doing that. I loved writing that letter because, first of all, it puts you back in the game. It puts you back in that world, and you suddenly become really immersed in it again. But also, it helps you to nurture that feel that you have for that world and your grasp of how it all works. Because by writing this letter, I had to be quite accurate with place names and the way they do things and everything. So it was another sort of education within the lore of this land. And I must admit, I went the whole hog when I was writing these letters. I loved it. I'd spend the whole evening, or maybe even 2 evenings, writing these letters, and I'd have the fireplace on and my little flame lamps going, and some nice dim lighting, and I'd have some sort of almost like medieval music playing, just to sort of set the scene, and then I'd be there writing. I absolutely really enjoyed it. So I'm really looking forward to the next time I get the chance to write in character. But also, you take these letters and you actually send them through the proper post. But what I've been doing is putting them in sort of authentic envelopes. You write on parchment and you put it in an authentic envelope, and you actually use wax seals. You've got a wax stamp and everything to make it like authentic, and it just helps to add to the ambience of it all. But it's really good. So yeah, in character writing is another thing that goes on during the downtime, which is really good. So yeah, that's just another immersive aspect of this whole thing. It's not just about turning up to a field in a medieval outfit. It goes on during downtime as well, and it's just brilliant. It just kind of keeps the magic going between the events. Now, when I made that video the first time round, I vlogged so much. I think I had about 4 hours worth of footage, and unfortunately I had to chop loads of it out because a lot of it was quite waffly, and the video was just getting longer and longer and longer, and I thought there's no way I can put a video this long and keep it interesting. So I chopped a lot of references and a lot of stuff out, and one of the things I chopped out that I just thought of just now actually was after the first major battle. There are 2 major battles on each weekend. There's one on the Saturday, one on the Sunday, and I think basically players will fight in one and monster in the other, because obviously you need monsters to fight against, so you sort of swap round on each day. But on the Saturday, I actually missed them going off to battle. I was making my breakfast at the time, but I won't make that mistake next time. But anyway, they went off, had their battle, kind of lasted probably a few hours, and when they came back, a lot of people had fallen in battle, and they basically brought the dead with them, and there were these people lying down on the ground, and obviously their characters were dead. And while these dead bodies were lying there, everybody gathered round, and they had these kind of eulogies going on, and they were saying how wonderful people they were, how gloriously they died in battle, but also like how they would be missed amongst all their friends and everything. And the thing is, with this world, because you're so immersed, and this world has this kind of realish feeling to it, you can get a little bit emotionally invested in it as well. And I found while I was listening to these eulogies and being in this environment, I was getting a little bit I was feeling really sad for all these people. I didn't even know these people, but the way it was done, and it was done so well, and these people were so like sincere in their acting, it was like quite sad. At one point I actually found myself starting to well up, and that's the point where I decided I'd step back a little bit and not go too full on with it. But I mean, there were people like grieving for them and everything, and they were acting, but they looked pretty convincing. Once again, this realism that this world has, it draws you in emotionally, as well as just kind of, it's not just a case of like wandering around sort of just being in awe at it all, you get this kind of emotional investment in this world as well. And again, I think that's what calls so many like myself and others back to it. And the conversations I've had sort of, away from Anvil, I'm in contact with a lot of these guys on Facebook and stuff. The conversations we have is like, we just all can't wait to get back there. But again, that's just all part of the appeal of this world. It feels so real. You end up becoming emotionally invested in it, and it becomes this really special place. And especially at night. I mean, nighttime for me, for some reason, it's even more magical at night. I think it's basically because everything is kind of lit up with, I wouldn't say like with flames, but it's lit up, lots and lots of candles. There's lots of orangey kind of natural lighting sources, flame sources. People really go out of their way to create in-character lighting, and so everything's got this real proper authentic kind of feel to it, and it just really, really adds to the magic. I think perhaps the appeal at night is because you can't see beyond the camp. I mean, to be honest, from what I recall, there's nothing beyond except fields and hills anyway, so you can't see any signs of civilization. It's a really good sight actually, and you just got some trees, copses of trees and stuff around, and hills. You can't see any towns or signs of civilization. But obviously once night happens and it's really dark, I mean it's pitch black, apart from where there is lighting, and it just, I don't know, it gives it almost like this coziness to the town, and it just adds to that magic. Now, when you talk about LARP, to some people there's a certain stereotype, like a caricature, that they may conjure up in their minds about the kinds of people who attend such events. I have to say, I never encountered anything like that. The people, everybody, all the people I met, all the people I interacted with, all the people I spoke to, all the people I saw at my event, or my first event at LARP, were completely normal, everyday, totally sane people, and there was absolutely no sign of any of those kind of caricatured stereotypes. And I think it's just a full stereotype that I know. There are a couple of movies where LARP was featured, and these people, were portrayed as these caricatures, and for some reason that's carried over for some people, but as far as I'm concerned, it's a completely full stereotype. And all the people that go to this event, or certainly the event that I went to, they were just normal, everyday people that have obviously discovered this thing, and they're just there to have a great time. And like I say, no sign of the caricatures, no sign of the stereotypes anywhere to be seen. The rules are very strict about no filming, no photography. I mean, they have got photographers there, and they're very, very discreet. They're kind of in garb, and they've got big cameras like hidden away with them, and every now and again you see them sort of take a snapshot. But there are very, very strict privacy rules regarding photographs and videos, and I think that is possibly to protect some of the people that go there that possibly have some very kind of serious jobs, and they don't, it's not going to do them any favors if the people they work with or their bosses or whatever find out that they do this sort of thing, possibly because of the whole full stereotype thing. I don't know, but like I say, there is strictly no filming because of the privacy issues, and also it just doesn't look very good when you're filming it. If you're there and say for example you're about to go into battle, you're standing there, there's 300 or 400 orcs all stood across the other side of the field ready to come running at you and really sort of do some damage to you, you're going to be, your adrenaline's going to be up, you're going to be like terrified, you're going to be excited, you're going to be, the adrenaline's going to be going, and you're going to be completely absorbed in the moment, and you're going to feel amazing, it's going to be really exciting. But that is not going to come across on camera. And you may have seen there are a few videos on YouTube where people have snuck in like GoPros and stuff in some of the battles. And to be honest, they all look a bit, the battles look a bit naff on film. It's only when you're there kind of mentally immersed that's when you get the real thrills from it. But to film it just comes across as quite naff. And to be honest, I don't think filming these battles actually does LARPing any favours, because it really just doesn't come across well. and can even sort of contribute towards upholding that kind of full stereotype. Now, there was one other thing that happened to my character that I didn't actually include in my last video, because again, I was trying to keep my video as short as possible, so I was trying to get it be as concise as possible. But there was this one thing that happened, and I chuckle about it even now. Now, right from the beginning, I sort of wanted to give my character an accent, and I kind of settled on a hobbity, like a Bristolian twang, so it'd sound a little bit like a hobbit. I'm not going to do that impression now because it turns out I'm actually rubbish at doing a hobbit accent. But that was my intention right from the beginning, was to give Ned this kind of Bristolian twang. The problem is, because I ended up having conversations with people and they were talking about these things that I knew nothing about. They'd start having a conversation with you about some event or some place that had happened, some bit of history that I'd never even heard of, let alone sort of knew about. And you end up just barely hanging in there with the conversation, concentrating on trying to figure out what it is they're saying, because you've got to jump into the conversation at some point and give your sort of side of it. And you end up concentrating so much on hanging on to that conversation that you completely forget about trying to give your character an accent. And the thing is, I found myself in that situation, and Ned's very first conversation in character, he was there, he was kind of poised to have this Bristolian accent, but as soon as he opened his mouth, out came the poshest accent I'd ever heard in my life. I was like, where the hell did that come from? So he kind of defaulted to this really posh accent, even though he was I was intending him to sound like have this hobbit type accent. Now, in Dawn, you have yeomen and noblemen, and Ned is a yeoman. A yeoman can ask a nobleman at any time to set them on a test of mettle, and that can take a long time, can take a short time. Sometimes it's just one or two events. Other times it can take considerably more. Sometimes they'll even set a test of mettle that they know you'll never pass. But if you pass the test of mettle, you can then become a nobleman. But I thought for this first character, I would make Ned a yeoman and kind of become almost like a subservient, play this kind of background subservient role. So he's playing the role of a retainer. And I mean, you can be a retainer to a specific nobleman, or you can be a retainer to the house. So I at the moment, Ned is a retainer to the house. And basically, like I say, it's kind of like a subservient role, or that's the way I'm seeing it. I'm quite happy to kind of run errands and do stuff in the background, just to kind of sort of be a part of it, but not up front. And basically, us yeomen, we basically look after the nobleman, if you like. So the nobleman can go off and do, sort of ponce around being noblemen, doing their thing in their glorious ways. The noblemen tend to sort of be there in the background, kind of clearing up after them and sort of keeping them out of trouble and looking after the books and doing all the more mundane stuff. And I kind of thought that would be quite a fun role, to have this kind of more subservient role than sort of being up front, sort of being a nobleman, sort of talking about stuff that I know nothing about at this stage. Perhaps at some point I may ask for a test of mettle when I'm feeling a little bit more confident about it and a little bit more knowledgeable about the world. I may get Ned to ask for a test of mettle, but at this stage I'm just happy to kind of lurk in the background and play the servant role. So I'm kind of hoping that the members of my house will kind of take advantage, well, not take advantage, but put Ned to good use and maybe get him running errands or just doing the little things. I'm kind of hoping that's going to happen, and that'll give me my game then. That'll put me into the game, and I'll be able to do things, even if it's just something as mundane as like going and finding someone and letting them know, giving them a message or something, or going and fetching something from somewhere else. I'm quite happy for Ned to do that. Or even if it's, if the Earls are having meetings, I'm quite happy to just kind of walk around and fill glasses, with water or mead or whatever it is. I'm still not entirely sure how all that works yet. I'm hoping somebody is going to, wise me up on what my role could be, as a retainer to the house. We'll see. Like I say, I'll just turn up at this next event and we'll see what's what when I get there. So, but yeah, I would say, like I say, this has had such a positive influence on my life, this whole thing. I would say if even any of this resonates with you, I would really recommend to you go and try it out. Certainly Empire, obviously that's the only one I've tried. Absolutely magical, and I would highly recommend going and try it out. Don't forget, I've got a money off voucher as well in the notes below. I think I'll get you £15 off your first ticket as well, so don't be afraid to take advantage of that. But it is something you're either going to love or hate. I think it's going to be a black and white thing. You'll either go along and just fall in love with it, or you'll go along and think, nah, maybe not for me. But it's important to emphasize this is not some spectator event. It's not like going to a summer fair where you just turn up for a few hours and kind of look at it all. You physically can't get in unless you are in character. They won't let you in. And the thing is that the ticket price is a one set price. So, it's crazy just kind of turn up for a few hours and then go home again. That's a really expensive trip out. So what you have to do is you need to invest, your time into that whole weekend if you want to get anything out of it. So basically, LARP Empire has made I'm not going to say it's been like changed my life, but it's certainly made a very positive contribution to how I live. Ever since going to the first event, it has been pretty prominent in my thoughts, and I'm really looking forward to going to the next event. It's been a long time since I've kind of been in that situation where you feel that, feel that fire in your belly. You feel that little spark behind your solar plexus. It's been a long time since I felt that way about anything, but Empire LARP has given me that. And I'm just really happy that I've discovered it. So there we go. That's my just kind of slightly rambly video about my LARP experiences so far. Obviously, I'm very excited about going back for a second event very soon. Unfortunately, in this video, I don't think I've really concluded anything. I've just sort of kind of rambled on. But to be honest, it does seem to be like the nature of the beast. It's really difficult to talk about the kind of things that you can get out of this. I'm really struggling, and I've spoken for probably getting on towards an hour or more, and I've spoken lots but I've said very little. On my first video, I was struggling to find the words at the end of that video, and here I am 5 months on, still struggling to find those words. But hopefully, what I wanted to put across has come across, and perhaps in the future, when I'm a little bit more competent about the whole world, I may be able to talk about it a little bit in more detail and with a little bit more authority. But right now, like I say, I'm still very much a beginner, just trying to impart my experiences so far. So there we go. I'm going to stop talking now because I've just been going on and on, and I'll be amazed if anybody's even got to this end of the video. But if you have, then thanks for hanging in there. Now, I will say for the record that I have no affiliation with Empire or Profound Decisions. I did get in touch with them and asked them if it was okay to use some of the visuals that I've been using in this video, and they said that'd be okay. So this is purely my own opinions based off of my own experience so far. But yeah, I'm just a newbie who's completely blown away by it. I just hope the content of this video is accurate enough, but it's quite possible it may not be. So like I say, do your own research if you want to get into this. But yeah, if you are interested in attending an actual Empire LARP event, don't forget that voucher below, because it's going to save you like 15 quid off your first ticket. And my chair seems to have developed quite a squeak now, so hopefully it hasn't been too intrusive on the audio. So there we go, that's it from me. I hope this was useful to someone. Thanks for watching, have a great rest of the day guys, and I will see you in the next video. Till then, take care.